Alrighty, I didn't record anything yesterday, and it's not because I was trying to dodge the fact that I completely blew that call. Was it on Wednesday? I put out a video saying, the Trump indictment's dead. It's never gonna happen. We were trolled. All of those, all the libtards are blue-balled, and yeah, I was completely wrong. Okay. But they did I thought that was a really good fake out, because they announced, hey, we're going to suspend the grand jury, and we had all this news about how Robert Costello, went before the grand jury, and, he was pretty compelling, and he basically said, hey, Michael Cohen's a total liar, and then they had to bring back David Pecker, and be like, no, Trump really is a bad guy. We gotta get Trump, and it just seemed like the whole grand jury was in disarray. It seemed like, well, gee, why aren't they voting on the charges? Where is it? Where is it? And when we went that many days without good news for their side, it seemed like, well, gee, this was so bad they couldn't even get a grand jury, which could indict a ham sandwich, to indict Trump. And then there were all the rumors and leaks of internal strife within the DA's office, and how the so-called career prosecutors, who they care about their body count. That's what prosecutors, that's all they care about is, hey, I want bulletproof cases, and I want to pad my resume with people that I've thrown in prison. And if Trump has a good chance of getting off of these charges, I don't want to bring him. I don't want to have my name associated with him, because that'll make me look bad in the future if I have, a loss on my record, a likely loss. But despite all that, the charges finally came on Friday. It was leaked by the New York Times Thursday night. Gosh, so I'm really behind talking about this. It's Saturday now. I mean, we're in a different world now. And I have to say, I'm happy that this came. I could, if I were a big name voice, I would have to virtue signal and talk about how, oh, this is so terrible, they're persecuting Trump, this is the worst thing that's ever happened, and pretend like Trump didn't want this to happen. Trump absolutely wanted this to happen. As I've been saying, this is the best thing that could have happened to his campaign. He's going to martyr himself now. There's no way that he loses the nomination. Trump will be the GOP nominee. Sorry, Desantis. I like Desantis. I think he's by far the best governor of Florida in my lifetime. And he's better. He was a better governor of Florida than Trump was president of the United States. I'll put it that way. But something, that I don't want to make this a Trump versus DeSantis video, but I will give the disclaimer of, there was always the suspicions of DeSantis's ties to the national security state. He was in the military, he was a JAG, he was a Gitmo. Those are kind of scary things to have on your resume, and things that he said about Ukraine, which I've gone over on this channel, certainly concerning, if we're talking federal politics. But none of that matters now, because he's not going to win. In fact, I don't think DeSantis should even get in the race. Don't do it. It's embarrassing. You're not in yet. You don't have to be in. If you just never announce that you're running for president, everything that DeSantis has done, this soft launch of his campaign, in the form of a book tour and doing all these interviews, we can forget about it. A year from now, nobody will ever remember that Ron DeSantis almost ran for president against Trump. Because if he does at this point, it will be career suicide. But based on what some people like Robert Barnes have been saying, the indictments are actually the reason why DeSantis thinks he has a chance. Do I believe that? I don't. I find that hard to believe. That to me sounds very naive. If DeSantis thinks that because Trump is going to be, indicted and thrown in prison, that, oh my gosh, this is my chance to essentially take the spoils off of his dead body, like this is an MMO. But I'm not a mind reader. I'm just someone who makes a lot of very inaccurate predictions, but I do it because it's fun. I do it because I like trying to think through these things. I like trying to analyze our society. What is more interesting of a topic imaginable than human civilization and its history as well as its future. Nothing is more complex. At least nothing that I'm capable of understanding. There are things that are more complex, like, quantum physics. I don't even know what quantum physics is. I don't even try. It's beyond my comprehension. But human civilization, it's complex, it's complicated, it's interesting, and I feel like I can get somewhat of a grasp of it, even if I can't predict what human beings are going to do. And you can't accurately predict what human beings are going to do because they're not robots. They don't have a simple input-output equation that drives them. And when you take that variable, the human element, and you multiply it by, in the case of the United States, 350 million people, you end up with a very complex organism. So if Trump gets his way, now we're told that the Secret Service is going to be orchestrating Trump's surrender to the state of New York in Manhattan. If Trump had his way, he would be perp-walked by the NYPD. And who knows, maybe the Secret Service, even if they're technically in charge, maybe they'll let him, Trump do that. They'll put him in handcuffs, and they'll hold the back of his suit, on his shirt, as they parade him down the street, as they, throw him in a jail cell. And it will be some of the best TV that we have seen this decade. Actually, we're only in 2023. So as far as the 2020s go, I think this will probably be the most highly anticipated television event. And it's hard to imagine anything eclipsing it after this, but hey, we've got, after 2023, we've got another 6 years of the 2020s. And I think we'll probably outdo this quite a few times. Now, it's a little late, but Desantis finally caught on to what would be the winning political strategy here, and that is white knighting for Trump, because it puts Trump in a position of subjugation, perhaps. Trump, in this scenario, if DeSantis were to block him from being extradited to the state of New York, Trump would be a subject of DeSantis's protection. And in that scenario, DeSantis would look like the noble lord of the manor, protecting his peasant, Donald J. Trump. And that's a terrible look for Trump. I think that Trump wants to avoid that at all costs. It would look terrible for him to have to rely on the protection of another man like that. Particularly because this other man plans on challenging him for the Republican nomination. If DeSantis were a clear, loyal Trump lieutenant, I think that Trump probably would fight this and would stay in Florida, and he would stand side by side with his lieutenant, Ron DeSantis, and say, hey, look, I'm not going to let them take me down, because DeSantis would then be a projection, in Trump's mind, DeSantis' very existence would be a projection of his own power. But since DeSantis is rising as a rival against Trump, Trump can't count anything that DeSantis does in his head as something that he associates with himself. I don't know if I was as articulate as possible on that, but I hope you get the point. And this is why it was so stupid last week for DeSantis to have a cavalier attitude. Or was it 2 weeks ago? I can't remember now. It was so stupid of him to have a cavalier attitude about this and say, like, oh, well, whatever goes on between Trump and the state of New York, that's no business of mine. It was a great opportunity to try and one-up Trump. And he's finally trying to do it, but it's too little too late, because now everybody's talking about the indictment itself rather than Ron DeSantis' response. When the focus was on Ron DeSantis' response, he choked. He gave the wrong response. He gave the response that Karl Rove would have given. And how people act off the cuff, what they say when they haven't had enough time, when they haven't had as much time to prepare and to test the reactions, when they're just operating off instinct, that's when you really learn about someone. Now that DeSantis has had a week of hearing from people saying he should do exactly what I said, now he knows, okay, that's the correct response, and he put that out in a tweet. Well, like I said, too little too late. So while Trump has now successfully secured the GOP nomination, that does not mean that he has secured the presidency in 2024. In fact, I think that his chances, considering that he's no longer an incumbent, are not, I wouldn't say remote, they're less than 50%. And, there is a trade-off to the whole persecution route that he's taking. Yes, it does help him PR-wise if he's being persecuted credibly, which I think it's pretty hard to argue that he's not being persecuted. But people who hate Trump, don't care. They want to get Trump at all costs. And most of those people have no qualms about how it gets done. They don't care about the details. They just know that Trump is a bad guy who belongs in prison, whether it's because of fake Russia collusion or, fake Stormy Daniels scandals. And I'm not saying that he didn't pay off Stormy Daniels. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that the part about it being a scandal is fake. We all know that Trump cheats on his wife. He's a pig. Everyone accepts that. But there are no laws broken here. There's no felony. But anyway, back to the trade-offs here. So Trump benefits from this martyrdom that he is going to achieve here. But if he's actually rotting in jail, that makes it difficult to campaign. Yes, it will be somewhat powerful if you have Trump rallies without Trump present because he's in prison, and every speaker there can, talk about how, Mr. Trump is not able to campaign here in person because, he is a political prisoner. That will be a very powerful message. But Trump's physical presence and his connection with the audience that only can happen in person is one of his greatest strengths. When Trump gives prepared speeches, prepared remarks, he comes off as far less in touch with the audience. When he's there, when he can hear them, when he can feel the energy in the room, he's very good at reading the room. And when he, decides, when he outlines, hey, here's a bunch of topics I want to cover tonight when I speak for, 90 to 120 minutes, he doesn't know what topics are going to resonate with the audience. He feels them out. And when he hits a nerve with them, when he gets them fired up, then he'll go on talking about that topic. And then he'll make that a staple, and he'll talk about that with other people. And if that topic starts to, become less engaging for people, he'll hit other topics. He'll throw other things out there, and he'll see what people are interested in. And if he's not doing that in person, if he's literally locked in a jail cell, he's cut off from his base, and he will become out of touch rather quickly. In fact, I think that that's part of Trump's current problem, is that he's having trouble getting back in touch with the base. And so even if there are benefits to Trump being jailed for his campaign, it will make him a worse candidate. And I don't think enough people have really taken the time to think about that. Then again, Trump may be granted bail, and if he is, the good news is he will be out on the campaign trail, but the bad news is you don't quite have you don't have the same gravity as you would with, hey, Trump is in jail. I think that would feel like a more serious situation, but it's just like, oh, I'm out on bail, he got pending charges. I mean, yeah, it's a big deal, but I don't think it's the same way. But I think overall that's probably the best case scenario for him, because then he can still he can still be a martyr, he can still talk up the persecution, but he'll actually be there in person to run his own campaign. And I think it will be the most powerful if he is able to channel that not into just talking about how, like, hey, they hate me, they want to take me out. He needs to embody that old 2016, boomer Facebook meme, which, had Trump pointing at the camera, and smirking and saying, hey, they're only trying to take me out so, because I'm standing between them and you, or something like that. Hey, they just, they don't want to get to me. They want to get you. I'm just in the way. that sort of thing. That needs to be the whole tone of his campaign. He needs to go about, hey, this trial is not about me. This is about all of our freedoms, and they want to take me out because I'm standing in their way of, controlling all of you and ruining your lives. If Trump does that, and he's focused, which he's never focused, but if he's able to focus on that meta-narrative, he wins. I'm just going to say it. That would be Trump at his best. Because what a better example of the persecution of our side of the aisle could you have than the right's preferred candidate for president literally being locked up by a prosecutor in the biggest, bluest city in America on a BS charge. That just will embody everything that's wrong with our system. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.